Welcome everyone to our Tuesday, July 8th meeting of our Whitley County Council. We appreciate everybody being here. And if you all would join me in honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll do the national anthem later. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it's been a month since we've got to see most of our department heads in a public meeting, and I always like to start off with just a ray of sunshine from each department. So Cindy, why don't you start us off today? What's going on in your department?
Well, I'm really not a ray of sunshine. No, right now we're just business as usual, and it hasn't been too busy, and we're doing good in our office.
Good.
Nothing more to say, really.
All right. I want you to work on it for next month. We want to be some more exciting. I know Scott's got something for us.
Since we reached the midpoint of the year, we've entered in all of the key performance indicators for the HFI funding in the state. We're way ahead of everybody else in our area. Darcy and continue to go out into the community, offering CPR classes, just been certified on a program to help elderly who might fall in their homes, and they're bringing that to the Council on Aging. Lots of good stuff going on.
Good. Jennifer.
I'm happy to have a new suite mate. Angela Brown just started yesterday. She's Commissioner's Assistant.
Nice to have you. Welcome. Kay.
The county is right at $1 million for interest as of last week.
That's good. That's good news. That's a big ray of sunshine. Tiffany, what do you have going on?
We finished our audit for 2024, so that is done. Gearing right up for budgets. They just opened the modules for me to start working yesterday for budgets, so I'll keep you informed as soon as I get numbers and all of that from the state for estimated revenues and all of that. That's moving right along.
And we had somewhat of a good meeting with Baker Tilly and some numbers that they shared. I'll let you talk about that later if you like.
Sure.
Jason, please.
I just think things are at ground zero. We're kind of just a normal pace. It's kind of nice. This is the anniversary for Cass. End of watch was July 10th, so we honor her this week. So we put everything out on 30. So if you drive by, give her a home.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. It looked really nice. Kim.
We are really ahead of schedule with our reassessment as far as the process the schedule that we have to follow with the state for our reassessment fieldwork and data entry. We were mandated to roll to the auditor our real and personal property values by July 1, and as of July 1, Whitley was only one of 27 counties that was rolled and balanced with the auditor, with the help of the auditor, so pretty proud of that with both our offices. And we've sent the real property files to the state, so we're doing good.
Good, thank you, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Ed.
Brandon Rittenhouse started 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago as deputy director, so we're getting him going. He's going to one training. He's had 2 call-outs already thanks to the weather, and there was a hydraulic spill over the weekend he responded to. We received a couple grant payouts, which is really nice right now in terms of grants not knowing their future. We got one from Duke Energy for $5,000. That payout came in last week for weather radios for the low-income and high-risk populations of our communities. And then our 2024 partial salary reimbursement got paid out from FEMA. And then we were told this last couple of weeks that a grant that will help us redo our multi-hazard mitigation plan has moved on to legal at Indiana after being on hold and frozen from FEMA for a while. So we got some stuff moving forward.
Good, thanks, Ed. Judge Garza, please.
Thank you. A month ago, we were notified by the Office of Court Services that they would no longer be covering the cost for language line, which is what we use for interpretation in court proceedings for the less common languages. We have a couple in-person interpreters for Spanish, but for Berber, Russian, Haitian Creole, that sort of thing, we use Language Line, and they're putting the burden back on the counties to do that, effective July 1st. Remarkably, we were able to get our login and information to start that and start using that. There's still a few bugs to work out. But we did at that same time apply for a grant through the Office of Court Services, and we were awarded $2,000 that will help offset the cost of the county for Language Line. So we still need to get that approved with the commissioners, get a line item put together for that particular grant fund, and then I think we're in good shape.
Thank you. Josh, please.
Good morning. There's not too much new going on in the Veteran Service Office. We have almost hit about 300 veterans already so far this year. So that's about all I did last year, period. So I think that's a good show of improvement for the office being full-time. Been getting out in the community, did one first Friday so far. Was gonna do July, but it was the 4th of July and I'm gonna go set up for that. So I'll be out there the next couple ones, and then also down this Saturday I'll be set up at the 4-H fair. Answer some questions, give out some information, everything like that, which I think is a big help. Pretty much it.
Thank you. Rosemary.
Our software company has 49 counties in Indiana, and last month we had the most e-recordings of any of them at 86%. So that's good. We're proud of that.
Thank you. Carly, anything to share from your court, please?
We're still in the process of getting our feet under the Addiction Recovery Court. That's why Judge Rentschler is not here today. He has staff at 8:30, so besides that, it's a quiet summer so far.
Paula.
Yesterday morning, I had a virtual meeting with the auditors from the Department of Corrections, finishing up our fiscal audit. There are going to be no findings, so Tiffany should be receiving that exit letter this week. Other than that, everything's going pretty well out there. Renovations are just a standstill right now because they have so many other commitments that they need to take care of. But things are going really well.
Good. Teresa.
Well, I know Jenny mentioned Angela, our new assistant. We're super excited to have her. I don't know if you guys remember our intern Carmen. It's actually her mom. So it worked out really well. We're excited to have her on board. Other than that, it's quiet for the day, so that's good.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move then to the first item that's on the agenda today, and it is scheduled for a public hearing on a waiver of non-compliance concerning 80/20. I know there's some people here to speak on this. I'm going to have Tiffany, before we go into the public hearing, just give a brief overview on why we're here and why we're having a public hearing on this issue, on what details of the agreement were not met. It's pretty much a dateline thing, but if you would please.
Yeah. I know that Kim received part of the documentation that was needed. However, we never received the CF1 for council to sign. They were great in getting information to us, a letter letting us know that they did mail the documents. I think they are probably still out there in limbo somewhere. So I provided everything in your packet for that. I spoke with Dale. He has no concerns. Since I've been auditor, I've had no concerns of any other, errors or anything at all. So that's pretty much it. And then they're here to answer any questions that you may have.
So then I will open the public hearing, and I'd like to start the public hearing. I understand there's a representative from 80/20 here, and to give you guys all the floor first to, if there's anything you'd like to say, or just share with us your side of it, please.
Good morning. My name is Todd Churchward, and I'm with Baden Tax Management. We handle the property tax filings for 80/20, including the abatement filings, CF1 filings. Patrice Mock is with me here. She's the CFO for 80/20. And as Tiffany indicated, I think you all have the letter that we sent along with the proof of mailing. We put into 2 separate envelopes, property tax return that was sent to the assessor and the CF1 form that we sent to the council. The one to the assessor made it. I don't know what happened to the CF1. We do a lot of these. We file literally thousands of property tax returns around the country, including hundreds here in Indiana, many of which have abatements. So process-wise, this doesn't happen often. We have seen it happen probably more recently in the last few years, I guess, issues with the post office. But not saying that's what happened, but my guess is, best guess is it's mishandled at the post office. But so anyway, this is the first issue with any sort of untimely filings or anything of that nature with 80/20. So I just wanted to kind of address that part of the process since we handled the filings, and Patrice can answer, I guess, any other questions that you might have specifically to 80/20. If there's questions in general, we'll do anything we can to try to answer them. So we appreciate your consideration for the waiver.
Does council have any questions, please?
What was the deadline date?
May 15th.
Well, they're within the postage is stamped May 8th.
And you don't have any reason why we shouldn't. And you have no reason either, Kim, why we
I do
don't
not.
pass this?
They
Okay.
reached out to me actually and asked if there was anything they could do to rectify this, and I gave them what they can do according to statute, and they've followed through with that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have a resolution number?
We do, but I'm going to finish the public hearing, and then the resolution number will be titled as 2025-03. So we are still in the public hearing. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward to speak their feelings on the consideration for this waiver today? The floor is open. Last call. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing, then I will turn it back to the council for their decision, please.
I'll make a motion we approve resolution number 2025-03 in favor of 80/20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion, please? Hearing none, all those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all council members that are present. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, Dan Weagold has asked to be moved to next month's meeting. Well, no, I'm skipping over Cindy, aren't I? Cindy, you're next on the agenda, please.
Good morning. I'm here again today. During the budget meeting, I had presented a quote from Microvote about the new election equipment, and you guys had a lot of questions for me. I want you to know that I did go back and check with the state to see if we had any grant money or if they could see in the future if we're going to be receiving any, and that was negative. So with me here, I have Steve Shamo. He's with Microvote. He can kind of explain why the need is that we need this equipment.
Hi, I'm Steve Sham with Microvote. I've been with Microvote now 31 years. I was introduced the voting system in 2004 to this county. At that time, the voting system was purchased through the Help America Vote Act funds to replace your punch card system. So this is really kind of the first reinvestment in the voting system probably since the 70s, since the punch card system was bought. The idea is to replace just one component of the device, which is the small voting panel itself, with the newer device. The changes in this device, the obvious one is it's a color screen that highlights each of the voting locations when the selection is made. Particularly important for council races at large, where it's no longer connected to the straight party button. Now voters can visibly see that no selections have been made in that office. That's the most visible for the voters. But the most important update to this system is you have to kind of think about a laptop from 1998 versus a cell phone. That's kind of the advance in the technology. The technology that you have now, the voting system is now 25 years old by design, 21 years old in this county. And so to think about the passports and the security levels and the passwords that were associated with products of electronics 20-some years ago. Now we're talking about much higher level security protocols within the operating system itself. So that's really what the goal is, to get up to a higher level of security by the 2028 presidential election. So my ultimate goal is to have all the counties in Indiana up to this platform going into the year 2028. We've had about 50% of the counties already move towards this product, either already installed or going in next year. And so the goal is to try to have things shook down and go. And I know there's some questions about, in terms of getting the system in place. Quite often people try to just say, let's just buy half of them now and half of them later. There's two really issues with that. One is the training aspect. You're putting two different pieces of equipment out into the county for the same election and presenting it either side by side or from one location to the other. But the ultimate goal is to get all the equipment up to the highest security level. So essentially, to try to put that in place, what Microvote is trying to put into place with most counties is to basically pay for a portion of the equipment up front, introduce all the equipment at once, and then spread the payments out with no interest to the county, because we just think that's a better way to execute the election overall. Any questions on that? I know I'm hitting it quick, so you got a lot of agenda items, but.
What's the inception of the technology in this system?
I'm sorry?
When did this system initiate? How old or how new is the technology in it?
It started going into place about 5 or 6 years ago. The certification process is pretty extensive. So to get a product like this through federal certification, state certification, takes about 2 years. And so really we're operating now on a much higher level internal Windows operation that the voter never really sees. So it's right now at Windows 10, Windows 11 is being introduced in the next update, the federal update. So to answer your question, the first county that put this into place, put it into place at Tippecanoe County in 2020. And same with LaGrange County about that same time period. So to answer your question, 5 years. So it's been shipped out pretty good at this point. And it works directly with the paper trail device that was introduced a couple years ago with the VVPAT device.
What all does it include? Is it just the software or is it the panel?
The panel and the software, the internal software, yeah.
Any other questions from council?
How long is this quote and the zero interest options? How long is that good for?
At least a year out, as far as right now. We haven't seen any significant cost. That's the beauty of more modern electronics too. It's kind of more of a static line with cost. Okay. I think the way that we've been operating with a lot of counties too is if we see potential for this to be secured within the budget, you know, at the end of your budget process, what we do is we speculate, we go ahead and put the equipment out on order, and then we have it in place. It takes about 3 months between putting the order in to getting the equipment in-house. In-house, we load all the firmware, we make it smart, put all security protocols in, and then we can introduce it in January, February in time for the primary. And again, it's not mission critical at this time. I'm going to be candid with the county. Your voting system's working fine. The ultimate goal is to get this in place, operating and shook down before the presidential 2028, when all eyes are on it again.
Since they're not used but a couple times a year, you know, during election years, how do you know on warranties? How is that covered?
The warranties go from 1 year out from the first year that they're used. In a county like this, I think the clerk's office can attest that most repairs, if necessary, kind of are taking place under the radar, in that we do a lot of the programming associated with this equipment. So if we find something on site, we simply repair it. This device, I can tell you, if it doesn't work in the first shakeout, then that's the first time it'll have an issue. We have not had any ongoing issues with this because of the more modern designs. Particularly the card reader that reads the smart card. The older one, when you inserted it, it literally had a mechanical clip that would clip on and pull out. That would gum up a little bit, and that would be our most vulnerable point. The new design simply eliminates that, so we haven't really had any issues. And the screen quality is just so dramatically better than the old pixelated one we have.
Since they've been out for 5 years, how long do you think they'll be active?
I'm expecting another good 20-year product, maybe even more so, because the older device, the issues that we've seen on the Wear is the fading, a little bit fading of the screen, the card reader, but also it maintains an internal battery that is a lithium battery that's mounted to the motherboard. With these operate, again, like your cell phone, where it has a much higher level technology to maintain date, time, and all the data that's in there. So there's no moving parts.
Does our current system have any value?
Not really. In fact, you have to pay to shred it. The state has a protocol to where when the voting machines come out of circulation, they go directly into our hands. We take them directly to a certified recycle place, and they drop them in a shredder on contact. There's really no value in the panel itself.
There's still information stored on those?
The firmware would still be loaded on it, and that's why it goes directly to the shredder. We can strip them down and we can blank them out, but the state prefers a destruction of the equipment.
Is that cost factored into your quote?
Yeah, I believe it's the last line item on there. It's not a high cost, I mean, it's just more what they charge us to go through the process.
Have you seen any indication that the state's gonna come forward to help counties with the bill?
I don't see it. The only where that they've helped is in the replacement of the hardware for the electronic poll books. That has been, because that's a much lower price across the board, so they've helped a lot of counties with grant money for that, to update their hardware for that. But the voting systems, they just simply have been cost prohibitive for any grant money to distribute out, unless there's a massive federal grant that comes through, but we don't see that, definitely in the current climate.
How are the other counties reacting to this?
Very well. I think we've had, like I said, we just yesterday, Hamilton County, last Thursday, Hamilton County's council approved a substantial one. Allen County updated all their equipment. Last year, we had it all in place. They're going into this year's election. So currently, we have 63 counties on our voting system in the state out of 92. And I think at the end of this year, we'll have over half of them that have upgraded their equipment, with another probably 20% going into the start of next year in the protocol. I think our last major county that hasn't so far is Lake County, Indiana, and that's just a whole different beast up there in general.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You too.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Cindy, anything that you want to add, please?
No, I just, Jesse and I were talking, and, our goal too is to have them by 2028. But, if the county can do it, the sooner the better to me, so we can get these out. And nothing else to add, really. All right.
Thank you. Does council wish to take action on this, please?
have any idea where we could come up with that money? Which account?
For, between election and clerks, it's very thin, there's nothing in there, so we would have to do an additional
Yeah.
to cover it.
And are we planning on taking the zero interest options, 60% the first payment, and then the balance in 1 or 2 years?
I mean, we have balanced what we'll pay today, I don't know if it would do you any good to separate it because it's.
Not to do, not, okay. It sounds like it's gonna come to that eventually. That she wants them by 2028 or before. The way it sounds, the budgets are gonna be really tight in 27 and 28, so it might not be a bad idea to try and do it now. That's just my thinking. I don't know what everybody else thinks about it. How quick do you actually want to know about this, Cindy?
Preferably by the end of September.
Okay.
And then that gives us plenty of time to get things ordered and in place by January, February. For instance, if it's budgeted for next year and we know it's budgeted for next year, then we would put the ball in motion.
Okay.
Go from there.
Also, if you see the letter from Microvote that was attached, it talks about the tariffs. And Steve just said that they'll know more next week, right?
July 9th and then again, early August. That's how that may or may not affect things.
Where are these made?
They're our we're technically the manufacturer. Then in California is Aon represented there. Components kind of come from all over the world, from between, Italy and France, some electronics from China. And then the partial assemblies take place in Taiwan, then is shipped to Aon, final assembly there, then to Microvote. Then Microvote's the one that makes it smart. We're the ones that introduce all the firmware and software into the device.
So you guys put it together. Is it your technology or is it China's technology?
It's our technology. This is designed directly out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Originally Carson Manufacturing, now we do that in-house. And then all the programmable components are either, they're AMD, is that name of the company, AMD, out of California. The chips and programming.
Has your company had any discussions about getting that production back inside the United States?
The assembly definitely, since all this has come place. Now, nobody makes microprocessors or these sort of things, or the finer elements in America anymore. Unfortunately, hopefully that's coming back here in the next year or two. But for the most part, yeah, that has been definitely a protocol with Aon.
So what portion of the production on this product do you anticipate there could be a possible tariff on?
Anything that comes from Taiwan. So ultimately, right now, there's a pause on the 10% tariff on Taiwan. And that's basically where the components are combined and brought together from all the other sourcing locations, then brought to Aon in California. So that's the location, that's the source.
So they're being built in Taiwan and then shipped to California for final approval, or I'm not understanding?
Yeah, so the electronic components are gathered in Taiwan, compiled into the device itself. Then they go to Aon. Aon basically introduces the computer chips associated with it. Then that component comes to Microvote. When it comes to Microvote, it's just a dumb box. It means it has no knowledge of what it is. Then Microvote introduces the firmware, the software to the device under our auspices.
So the software and the chip are made in the United States, everything else is made various other places and assembled in Taiwan?
Yeah, gathered from all over, yeah.
what does your company project the tariffs how they could affect the product?
Okay, in fact, when it first got, the tariff discussion started, it was 10% on Taiwan. That's the only point of contact. And then that was paused for 90 days till July 9th. And then at that point, now we have to wait a couple more days to see what happens in that discussion. And that being a trade partner in good standing with the United States, it's been a pretty easy discussion there. We pushed back on on Aon out of California to absorb at least half of it, so we can absorb half of that, but we haven't had much luck yet with them because of course it's not the only thing they manufacture.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering, since Tiffany is just starting on the budget, just kind of have some unknowns. I know 27 might be tight. Does it make sense to push this to August or September until we know a little more about our budget?
Personally, I don't think that would be a bad idea. I mean, we're right there at the time of the year when we're starting to get our numbers in, and we're going to know exactly where we're at. And if we're looking, I'm not sure what the September deadline looks like, maybe just for having it for next year, but certainly we've got plenty of time to play with for the 28th election. Our equipment is not going to be worth any less than it is now, with what we're using. I think we can still get through the elections that we have to do with the equipment that we have. It's just a matter of updating it, so.
And how much of the price increases? That's what we're up against, really.
Well, I mean, even a 10% tariff, that tariff is only on the part that's coming from Taiwan, so that really is, I mean, it certainly isn't 10% of this price. It's a fraction of whatever the total price would be, but I don't, he can't answer it, so I'm not going to guess.
No way of knowing until at least the 9th on what's going to happen with the tariffs. So.
And I think, as he spoke on, I think we've seen, or I've seen, a lot of things I paid attention to. Tariffs are being primarily absorbed for now. I don't know if that'll last, but most companies are absorbing tariffs.
The window that we shoot for is, because we know that we have 90 days out, it takes about 60 to 70 to get things into California. And so our window is like, for instance, if we see in August, this extension they're talking about in August, if we see there's not going to be anything for another 90-day extension, that gives us our window to open until it drops in. And that's kind of where we're at right now as of next week for what I have pending.
So what you said then, though, is if we order today, we'll have our product and then be ready to go in approximately 90 days from order to being on site here.
Yes, and in reality, the 90 days for when we actually, as a company and as a clerk's office, want to have the equipment in place for an election would be the end of February. So that's really a big cushion that we have. For instance, like if we wait, or you wait until the budget cycle comes to the nitty-gritty end and you see what's left, you still have plenty of time to put the product in place by February to get things installed.
And I know part of the budget discussion at some point that Tiffany is always able to provide to us is what line items look like and how they're being spent up to this point in the year, to kind of give us an idea of what will be coming back or could potentially be coming back into county general. I think all of our department heads do a really good job of putting their budgets together, but inevitably Whitley County is, we've been, over the course of, I know, the last 8 to 10 years, very good about money coming back into county general. We don't have department heads that are going out and spending it just because it's in their budget at the end of the year. And Ken, you've been here longer than than I have on that, and I think you've seen that.
Yes. I'm total agreement of wait until September. Take a look at it then. I don't know how we can spend any money right now till we know what's going on with the budget.
Table it till September. Kim, is that your motion?
Yeah.
I'll second his motion.
I have a motion, a second to table. Is there any further discussion? Table it until the September meeting.
Yes. See where we're at.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please respond raising your right hand and let it be shown as passed unanimously with the board members, council members that are present. And that brings us to budget discussion. I'd like to start the budget discussion with Tiffany giving us an overview of the updates and the meeting that we all had with Baker Tilly.
So Baker Tilly, they were present on the 16th. Paige was here. I think I emailed everybody a draft copy of that as well. They are still working on getting a parcel by parcel better number to us to know the impacts that are coming for property taxes. I have not yet received those. Once we get those, you'll receive a final copy, not a draft. But I mean, for anybody who was there, pretty much everything looks good. There's a couple concerns that we have, one of which is the E911 fund will be in the negative by the end of this year, which I've already spoken to Jason about, spoken to Janelle, so they are aware that that is happening. By the end of the year, we're looking at roughly 20,000 that we would be in the red if we kept everything as is. So it was recommended by Baker Tilly that we take as soon as possible roughly 150,000 out of their budget and move it somewhere else. We already have some dispatchers paid out of county general and the sheriff's 0105. Speaking to Janelle, we could move 3 positions and it would be roughly 155,000. And we could do that as soon as possible and get additionals done to cover. That way we won't be negative at the end of the year. And then obviously that needs to stay for budget year 26 because they are not receiving any more funds. You do have a couple highlighted pages that were given to you. Your top one there is the 0105. And I just kind of shifted things so you could see. So I added those 3 positions into the 0105. Police pension, I know we haven't had a chance to really dive in on. I know it was removed from CDIT budget. Originally, Sheriff's Department had it in Lowit, the 1170. It can't sustain that. I know that without numbers from the state. So we do need to find somewhere to put that. For now, I just shifted it into the 0105 as well. So in that, you'll see Commissioner's budget. You have an updated copy. Jen had gotten with me. They have decided to go to a new liability company for insurance. And the number that was requested on the first sheet you had was off, so we had to add about 175,000 to that line item. So that's in the 0130. And then you'll see, I just gave updated as well for the 1170, removing that sheriff pension. So you'll get a better idea on that budget. And then the E911, removing those positions, you'll see 155,274 would be removed for budget year 26. And some other things that Baker Tilly let us know too is that starting in, I think it's 27 or 28, they are doing away with lit, how it is now. So your 1170, your low it, you seed it. That's what I was like. What is that? The jail lit tax that you guys just did in 2019 will be gone. So then it comes back to council to set a rate that is a max of 1.2% to be able to kind of regroup those funds. That is their recommendation, is to do a full 1.2% to start, and that would essentially they're getting rid of all those extra funds and they just dump everything into county general. So we would still be getting funds if you choose to do so, and they would go into county gen, and then we would get rid of like the 1170s, so sheriff would have a really large 0105 budget instead of blow it. So there's still some unknowns with that, but they are coming to an end and council needs to decide. And I do believe they said by October of 27, you guys would need to make a decision on what you want to do with that to try to keep funds. That's kind of the breakdown of it. Lord asked where we were in county gen. So I pulled that number up for him, making these changes that you have in front of you, keeping what everybody has requested for 2026 in county general. We're at $15,797,647. To keep a balanced budget, we would need to be 15.1.
10.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't have that final number yet, but that's what Baker Tilly shared with us at the meeting, is that we needed to be at about 15.1. It was their best estimation. They said also too, not to be the health that we're in as far as our county general, not to be too concerned with like one-shot expenses, a roof that needs fixed or voting machines that need to be purchased, as much as an ongoing commitment. They said the next couple of years we should be pretty smooth, but if we don't make adjustments and file that for that new tax, then we're going to be out a lot of money that's not coming to us. So we're going to be forced to create a new tax or to approve a new tax, but it's just replacing some things that have been done. Has everyone, over the course of the last month, had a chance to dive into your folder after our meetings with the department heads, and is there anything to bring forward at this time that we want to talk or discuss about feelings on cuts or things that were requested that you would like to have Tiffany cut out of the budget right now to reissue it to us?
I have a question for Jason. On the state that's behind your per diem paybacks, that's going to be released soon. Do you know how much that is, and will it affect your budget to the positive, or how is that used?
For what?
Your state pays a per diem. They owe all the counties money because they haven't been keeping up with their payments. How does that affect your budget if that's paid?
I mean, it's not, we don't need to be behind it. We're already behind it with meal money.
You're what?
We're always behind the meal money.
Well, they said they're going to get that paid, and then they should maintain that. So I'm just wondering if that will help with the budget.
No, because we're always behind the meal money. It's not like we're going to make any money to make anything up.
The way it sounded at this meeting I was at, they owed everybody, all the counties, quite a bit of money.
Jody has not said one word about that.
That's for housing inmates.
That'd be a Jody question if you're talking about that. Yeah, and if you're talking about
'Cause
DOC reimbursement,
that's Red Road.
We're one of the better ones at DOC reimbursements. I don't think, when we check, it's not,
Okay.
I don't know, we seem to click okay with DOC as far as moving inmates and reimbursements. We don't get as far behind, I think, as some of the larger counties. I think that's where they run into it.
All right.
I didn't understand your question there, but I guess if that's what it is for the DOC reimbursement for housing, then.
Well, I know it's retro, so.
It's the same as the medical stuff that you have to, it has to be billed, it takes months to get back around. It's no different than the billing requirements that we have to have.
I was just hoping it was a large amount and it would help with things. But then if it was a large amount, it would hamper things. So, okay, thanks.
The other issue that Baker Tilly brought up to us in that meeting was the fact that we don't take advantage of our rainy day fund. We're allowed to put up to 10% of our budget in a rainy day fund maximum per year. Right now we have about 55,433 in the rainy day fund. It's just kind of sitting there that can be used for, really can be used for anything, because it can be transferred right back into county general at any time, at any amount. Where we're losing out as if we're not putting that money back into that savings account, that 10% a year, then it's not there, because we can't all of a sudden, put 50% in, or which we would never be able to do, but you're limited per year on what you can put into it. So that's something else, just information that we need to probably start thinking about, utilizing that rainy day fund, but not forgetting about it, knowing that we have that there to draw out of.
Well, and she also said that affects our grants and state issue. When they take a look at it, they look at general and not the rainy day normally. So that's a way to get more funds if it's available through the state.
We've concentrated a lot of years on just trying to build that county general and being pretty proud of it, but I think it makes sense to start doing that transfer and getting some money in the rainy day fund if we've got any to put over there.
And it's easily accessible.
The rainy day fund back years ago was a pretty good thing to have when we had a couple medical bills we had to pay. So I wouldn't be too quick at getting rid of it or spending it. Well, that's my feeling. You guys do what you want to do, but I know we've spent a lot of money on the rainy day fund for medical problems that we've had.
And I think my point more than anything else is the fact I don't think we're putting enough money into it. Kim, I don't think we're utilizing it. I'm not talking about taking any money out. I think we need to be putting some more money into it. That we need to be reaching up towards that 10%. And that's something if you could put on our agenda to discuss in November, to look at our projected budget left from this year, because we can still do a 10% this year. And maybe please come up with a figure for that on what that number would look like.
Is it possible to have a list of everything that's taken out of all the, like the safety tax, all of them that we're talking about maybe doing away with or moving them or something? Can we see what's being taken out of them now?
Yes, yep, I'll send you an email and let you know which one in your book would be
Okay.
the funds.
Is there anything else about the budget that anybody has any strong feelings on or that would like to discuss today, please? Okay, well then we will move forward. There is no personnel committee report this month, as we did not have a meeting last month, but we do have a personnel committee agenda for today, so please be prepared for a meeting immediately following this one. We are now ready for the commissioner's report, please.
Good morning. I just have one thing for you. Yesterday in our commissioner meeting, we started a conversation about radio communications. I've met with some township fire members, and I've met with Tom, and I've met with Ed Scott, and the conversation that we're having is around the VHF equipment that's currently in the old jail with antennas attached to the tower at the old jail. And I learned that, and I didn't know this the day of budget hearings, but I had learned that the sheriff's department has removed the maintenance agreement from their budget for that equipment. And currently there are only 3 townships that have moved to the state system, to the 800 system for paging. And that's going to be pretty critical that they still have the ability to be paged and by using VHF. And so I met with Adam from J&K and just kind of talked to him briefly about what it would look like for us to move that equipment to a tower that we own that's at the highway department. And actually they recommended that. We have a quote to move that equipment to J&K's tower, but in doing that, it would create a new monthly rental fee of several $1,000s, and it just doesn't make sense when we own a tower that we can utilize. So I've just started to explore. I don't have a price, but I'm just starting a conversation about what it could look like if the commissioners made this a seated project while we still have seated, and move that equipment and go into or enter into and cover the costs of the maintenance agreement. I understand that by ending the maintenance agreement, that doesn't mean that we're not able to use the equipment. It just means that we don't have an agreement in place if something goes wrong. Meaning, and then I see that as meaning then we wouldn't be priority to get it fixed, and I don't think we can afford to have downtime. When I think about essential government and what that means, public safety is top of list for me, and I think that and roads are the most essential functions of government. And so the idea of having any downtime or any inability to dispatch or to page for fire could be a really bad deal. So I'm going to continue the conversation and just look at what it would cost, what it would look like. I do know that if we move the equipment to the tower that we own at the highway department, J&K would have to realign 3 antennas throughout the county, one being on their on their tower, one being at the new jail, and one being at Thorn Creek, I believe. Does that sound right, Tom?
I think that's correct, yeah.
But of course, there's a lot of people who know a whole lot more about radio communications and that sort of thing than I do, but I think it's worth continuing the conversations and looking at moving the equipment and entering into an agreement. And I think that the commissioners are not ready yet to make that commitment, but I think we're working in that direction to make it a seated project. And as you know, currently the state says we need to spend 75% of seated every year, and I don't think we've come close. And so, I'm sorry.
I'll help you.
I'm sure you will. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, let you know that these conversations are happening. I invite you to join in if you'd like. I know, Tom, you're an asset when it comes to these conversations. So if you'd like, if you guys are comfortable with that, I can invite Tom to the conversations every time I'm having them. Put them to work.
I mean, we're in conversation now looking at a different system, but we're just starting that road. We're ways away from that. But we got to move the VH system for like 6 departments, volunteer fire departments, counties. So we don't have a choice. We've got to have that equipment up and running for the safety of Whitley County. So we're trying to get to one system, but we're not there yet. So we're working on it.
And that was kind of our view on it too, is like I had said, there's only 3 departments that have the capability of being paged on 800. That leaves 5 township departments that can't, that don't have that ability. So I think we need to be working toward a deadline, but I don't think that we can just cut it off without, and admittedly, I haven't had any conversations with any township trustees or township fire chiefs or any of that about this. So I do know the equipment belongs to them. I believe that part of it was paid for by a grant that Washington Township received a number of years ago. So they got the equipment, they purchased the equipment, but they've never maintained it. The county has always maintained it. So in theory, you could go back to the townships and say, okay, it's yours, like you maintain it. But they're not prepared to do that because we haven't had any conversations with them to say it's coming. So again, I think it's worthwhile for a seated, and I don't have a price, so I'm not here asking for anything. I'm just giving you an update on things I'm learning and in the direction that we're kind of moving toward. And that's all I have for you this morning.
Thank you, Chaz. The only items I have left on the agenda would be 3 sets of minutes for meetings held on June 3rd, June 10th, and the joint meeting with the commissioners on June 16th, please. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as they were presented to you?
Make an approval on the, by times 3, rather than go individual.
If there are no corrections to be presented by anyone, I will accept that, John.
I so make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve all 3 sets of minutes, June 3rd, June 10th, June 16th, as presented. Further discussion, please. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Let it be shown minutes were passed unanimously with members that were present. These will be coming down the road, so make sure that you sign all 3 of them before you leave, please. I'll now open the floor to anybody in the audience that has anything for the good of the cause, please. Before I do that, I'm going to ask Mark for his ray of sunshine. He wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, so we'll give him the floor now.
Yes,
And
I
Scott's here
apologize.
too. Scott, you'll be next.
Apologize for being late. Yes, we continuing with the issues with the rooftop units at the detention center. Kind of sounds like we're making headway and getting some improvements made. So that's positive. And we're just continuing with the request by the commissioners to evaluate the cost to relocate Purdue Extension and Probation Office. Getting pretty close to having those numbers to present them to the commissioners. Other than that, we're just continuing the day-to-day operation of maintenance. Any questions for me?
How you come with the work release?
Good question. The first floor is pretty much done. We're taking a little break so we can finish the museum windows before we tackle the second floor, which will be coming here in a month or 2. We'll get started on that. So I'd say we're better than halfway.
I stopped out and looked at it, and it looks great. You guys have done a tremendous job on it.
Thank you.
Is there any way to charge, I don't know, the company for the new jail, your overtime or any kind of work you're having to use for those units? Is there
That's a
any
good
way to
question.
turn that into them to make them reimburse the county because of their slowness?
I'm not sure I can answer that.
Well, that's a conversation I've had with Elle about us, and it's something that we're looking at. It doesn't look good, but we're looking at it.
Thank you, Mark. Scott, you got a ray of sunshine for us?
Sure. Right. We hired a new deputy coroner for us, and she actually comes from Allen County. She still works part-time in Allen County Coroner's office. She's a homicide detective. She was crime scene detective. She's seen more than probably everyone in this room has been in law enforcement. Her name's Michelle Hyde. She comes from the Cherubusco.
Good Cherubusco person.
Yes. She said she knew you, but other than that, just working on odds and ends, trying to catch up.
Anything else for the good of the cause, please? Paula?
Just what is the timeline to finish the 2026 budget?
Well, it always depends on the state.
Okay. I just didn't know.
We have
if
a
there was-
deadline. What's our deadline?
On the very end of the year, obviously, but we try to get everything done by your October 7th meeting.
We usually try to approve the October meeting, the deadline, or we've imposed deadlines on ourselves in the past. We've not really done that up to this point because we're still waiting on information that we don't know when it comes, Paul. As soon as we have that, then we'll set our artificial deadline so she can have everything submitted.
Okay. And you'll just let us know if you need anything else from us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Kim?
I was just wondering if we needed to have any discussion or if there'll be any more discussion on the reassessment fund. I know Baker Tilly mentioned that, so I didn't know going forward if that would be something we need to have additional conversation on maybe also.
And I think, yeah, we probably do. And I forgot about that part of the Baker Tilly meeting, but they told us we had too much money in that fund. I know we've worked hard, and Kim has been a very strong advocate in the past of making sure that we keep that fund strong. But Baker Tilly told us that we probably had too much, and that should be shifted back into maybe a smaller or no draw, smaller draw, and let the money flow back to county general for maybe a period of 2 years. So if you would put that on our agenda to talk about, we'll give everybody a chance to dig into that. We'll talk about that next month.
Thank you.
And if you could come prepared for that, Kim, I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
John?
I have nothing.
Tim?
Nothing further.
Joan?
I do. I'd like to have a discussion, I guess is what I need, on the notice we got from the State Board of Accounts yesterday on our concern for our audit. I understand probably what happened, but I think it's important that protocol is followed. So I was kind of surprised that came out of the blue and I just got it through an email. So I'd kind of like to see how this happened, what we can do to prevent it.
Which part?
The one that is in violation for, I don't know how to put it without just saying it. The concern on the non-compliance that Hodges Property Management mowed the ditches with last year. Did you get that? I'm assuming you got it? It said so in the drainage ditch. What is that about?
So what Joan is referring to is that there was a piece of information found in the State Board of Accounts annual audit that Hodges Property Management, who you all know I'm a part of, did not properly file a conflict of interest statement, that it wasn't made to be known in the right channels. Now, Hodges Property Management went to the clerk's office and the auditor's office and the engineer and the drainage department, and we followed and filled out and signed and turned in everything that we were told that needed to be done. Hodges Property Management is not in the business of doing bids ever before this issue, and we've stepped aside from it moving forward. We had a customer of ours that had some work that was to be done through the drainage board that was going across their property that they wanted us involved in it. We went through the procedures, we did all the paperwork. I spoke with Tiffany on it. I had the mark of approval from everybody that we needed to file the paperwork. There was never any covert cover-up. There was never any undercover bidding. There was never any implication of anything that was done wrong. And I think that's very important to understand here, because I think we're bringing something up in a meeting here that needs to be talked about. But I think we need to understand and educate ourselves on what it was about before we just, put out false and misleading information. So, no,
wait a minute, who did that?
I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
So, here stating in a public meeting. We did everything we were required to do. We bid on this one customer's project so that they would feel comfortable in their project being done by someone that already takes care of their property, and we backed away from it. I'm gonna let then Tiffany jump in and explain exactly how this came up in the audit and what the State Board of Accounts findings were and what they shared with as far as the rest of the state, because I know that they shared with all of us the issue too.
So apparently, it's kind of been found for multiple counties that conflict of interest forms either aren't being done or aren't being done correctly, or people just don't know. So, last year we were at a conference and it was brought up by the state, and the way they presented it was my responsibility to file for anybody as auditor, for these forms. And we just came back and I was like, that is just mind blowing. How am I supposed to know who has a conflict, who's receiving payment? We'll come to find out that's not the case, that it's on the actual individual, and they are stating any person who would receive any type of financial benefit from the county. So whether it be Chad had to do one for mowing for redevelopment, Tamela just had to come before commissioners, not for herself, but her husband does carpet work for Mark, and that's a conflict. Even though he doesn't work here, she does. So it's anyone who would benefit $200 or more into their pocket, essentially, whether it's spouse, themselves. So we've definitely kind of all been hit with a learning curve here, and there's a lot of unknowns. I've been in talks with Carly at the court because, she has a transcript that she gets paid that's outside of her wages. So it's a huge learning curve. Everybody's getting dinged with it. It was not
Well, for transparency purposes, it sounds like he did what he was supposed to do. So what caused
There are
it?
3 steps that are supposed to be followed in a certain amount of time. Needs to go before the Board of Commissioners, which we didn't know that at the time,
Okay.
so that's why Thor didn't come before the Board of Commissioners, because we didn't know. Within 15 days of them signing that individual needs to take it and upload it into Gateway themselves, and then it needs to go to the clerk's office for filing. And it used to be you could do one for a year. Now they've changed the form where it's possibly every single time that there's a conflict, you could go before Board of Commissioners. The state's working on trying to get that form updated because they don't agree with it.
Well, I know I was advised by Thor last year or the year before that I should do a disclosure agreement at the courthouse. So I didn't understand why any of this was occurring.
Yeah. It's something that they're concentrating more on and ensuring that it's in a public meeting, that it's been approved. When we first started out, we thought it was going to be okay that the drainage board, would have been the approval for that. But as the way it's being stated from the state, it has to come before the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, it's confusing.
Yeah.
The form is not clear.
No, it's not.
And there's a new form that's maybe even, I would argue, a little more complicated to understand. So during the exit interview at the audit, I had recommended to State Board of Council they put out some sort of work instruction. And their response was, we don't know who would do that, but we agree that there should be a work instruction. I've done several in my eight or 9 years now with the county, probably as many as 6 or 8 conflict of interest forms, and each one was a little different. The process was a little different. So again, it's a complicated system where nobody quite understood, and it was nice. I like audits because these sorts of things come up and then you learn from it, and then going forward you know how to properly file the form.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to discuss because it is public, and if you get it, like when I read it, it was like, what what caused this? So now that we have this discussion, I don't know how you'd prevent it in the future other than the deadlines, but because it sounds quite intense.
We prevent it in the future by knowing the process, knowing that it has to go in front of the commissioners now, and knowing that it has to be then uploaded by that individual. And these were all steps that were not known by anybody in the county. Obviously, the commissioners weren't holding the meeting to approve that, so it could be uploaded
Well, I appreciate it.
Or our request or our bid to do a certain project.
Well, I appreciate the explanation, and I think it's important to discuss it as it comes up, so that was a good discussion. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, John?
4-H Fair is coming up, so everybody come and show your support to the fair. It ought to be hot and enjoyable.
Tom?
I have nothing.
Kim?
I have nothing.
And I have nothing. Everyone have a great month, and we will see you here next month.